Hey everyone, it's Brian here again, the Chinese watch guy. I like affordable watches, especially Chinese watches. And today I have my review of my second Englemaan watch, the Enterprise, which is a homage of the Sinn 104. So if you don't know, Englemaan is an homage brand that just emerged earlier this year, and they produce these tough, high specification Sinn homages, basically. Of course, for a fraction of the price of actual Sinn watches. And earlier I did my review of the Citadel UTC, an homage of the Sinn 856, and I called this a game changer, and I think that is a valid moniker. And that's because of the value provided. The technology, the specifications provided here, a lot of Swiss and German brands aren't even providing at a much higher price point. Now I had some quibbles with this watch, the relative thickness, and well, the lack of original design. And if those are factors that bother you, you could stop watching because those are factors that carry on into today's watch, the Enterprise. However, this is a gorgeous and well-built watch. So good, in fact, we have to ask if there's a point in getting the Sinn 104. If you own this, we'll discuss this at the end. Okay, speaking of presentation, the watch does come with this rather nice real leather carrying case. Last time I got the Eco Pack, which did not include this. And it does come with this tool. This time, instead of the spring bar tool, they are including a small flathead screwdriver. And yeah, that's an improvement because this will be used to size the bracelet, which is a screw link bracelet. And that makes that now basically exactly the same as Sinn's tool, as opposed to the spring bar tool, which they had included previously. Sizing the bracelet was super easy. Englemaan does use quite a good screw system for their bracelet links. It is a really close homage of the Sinn 104. If you're watching this, you might know Teddy Baldessar, the watch influencer, and he said that the Sinn 104 is the only watch that he bought twice. That's how much he liked it. So it is a great design, although of course it's not an original design here. In anticipation for this review, I did check out the 104 at my local retailer, although it was the stick indices version. All right, so let's look at dimensions. Oh, before we begin, I should add that the company did reach out to me after my first review and sent this watch to me for free. I don't have to send it back. I kind of debated with myself whether I should accept watches from companies, as I do want to remain objective. However, I think that's the only way that I'll keep this channel continuing, the only way that I'll keep it growing, as I can't afford to buy all the watches myself. However, to celebrate my first milestone as a small YouTuber, having 1,000 subscribers, thank you so much, I plan on giving away one of these Englemaan watches in the near future. Okay, let's get to it. So the watch size for my 6.5-inch wrist is about 153 grams. Compared to the Citadel UTC, came in just a bit heavier, almost 155 grams. So pretty solid, a little bit hefty, but it does definitely give you that feeling of solidity on your wrist. The watch head alone weighs 79.5 grams. The Sinn 104 watch head weighs in at 73 grams. So again, just a bit heavier than that. The case diameter comes in at just over 41 millimeters. Case height comes in at 12.9 millimeters. So same diameter as the 104. The case diameter without the bezel is perhaps a millimeter thinner, and case height is exactly 1 millimeter thicker than the 104. Is that a point of contention? Perhaps for some. When I first reviewed the Citadel UTC, the case height, that thickness, is perhaps one of the main drawbacks of the watch, but I've gotten used to it since then. I quite like wearing this watch. I'll put this on the wrist and see what you think. Gorgeous finishing, which we'll look at close up, but I would say that with a long sleeve like this, perhaps it's a bit hard to notice that thickness. If I was wearing a t-shirt, it might seem a bit junky. And finally, lug width is 20 millimeters. I'm not even going to measure that because I know it is the same lug width as the Citadel UTC, and the bracelets are interchangeable, or at least they fit on each other. The end links are not, exactly the same shape, but they do fit on each other, so that's kind of fun. Okay, let's talk about this dial. We see, of course, the prominent Arabic numerals, and there is a version with only stick indices, but I prefer this one. This is more of a pilot's watch as it was originally intended. Those Arabic numerals are very well loomed, as we'll see later, and there are, of course, small loom plots beside each numeral. Very clean printing here. We see Englemaan below 12 o'clock. Now, there are some that don't really like this logo. They don't like this font. I've heard it's a deal breaker for some. It doesn't really bother me. In fact, it's quite similar to the Sinn script, isn't it? We do, of course, have day and date here. Usually a complication I don't really prefer, but somehow it just works in this design. However, you might have noticed the day, slowly, lazily rolling over, and that's because that's a function of the NH36 movement, not as crisp as, say, a Salita movement. We have syringe hands for the hour and minutes, offering very good legibility. Perhaps not as good legibility as the sword hands that I have on my Sinn 556 from an angle, but front on, very good legibility. From the side, perhaps just a step below the sword hands. Oh, and one more detail with the dial is that anti-magnetism symbol, which is almost hidden beside 9 o'clock. And so the movement is anti-magnetic. It has that soft iron cage around the movement, which I have tested last time with the Citadel UTC, and it worked pretty well. As for the bezel, it is a countdown bezel. It's only unidirectional as opposed to the bidirectional of the 104. But otherwise, it's very accurate. For example, the slightly alternating sizes of the numbers along the minute track on the bezel, the slight slope outwards on the bezel. It looks really clean. And if you look at the knurling along the edge, interspersed just like it is on the 104. Let's listen to this bezel action. It's a bit light, but quite crisp and precise. I quite like it. It does feel fairly premium. Let's look at the case finishing. So as you can see, again, it's quite clean. It does start to depart from the 104 here because the 104 is all high polished, making it rather dressy. Here we just have some polished accents, and they're done quite well. Look at the lugs here. There are 5 different facets on those lugs, and all finished really cleanly. Look at those transitions, pretty clean. So with the mix of finishing, I find that this makes the watch pretty versatile and, yeah, not quite as blingy as being all polished. Looking at the bracelet, it is an H-link bracelet, just like the Sinn, and they are brushed except for those prominent center links, which are polished, as you can see. I really like this look. The finishing here is, sort of a elegant tool watch. Now the problem with polished surfaces, of course, is that they scratch easily, but Englemaan has anti-scratch technology. They have, I believe, 1,000 vigors of scratch resistance, and that puts it ahead of the Sinn 104, which does not have a tegimented hardened version. You have to go for the pricier models to get tegimented anti-scratch technology. So it's kind of a perfect combination. You get a little bit of bling, but you get the protection against scratches. I've been wearing this for about a week. No noticeable scratches really so far. Okay, let's do a little scratch test. Last time I did it with the brushed links of the Citadel UTC. Now it almost feels sinful to scratch up a polished link like this, but well, let's see if it holds up. Okay, after wiping away the debris, because sometimes it's actually the tool that is getting wrecked rather than the link in these cases, but yeah, it looks like it holds up pretty well. I think maybe you could see some faint marks, but for a polished link, looking pretty damn good. The clasp does have micro adjustment. It's a standard clasp found with many micro brands and Chinese brands these days. It is signed, and I was able to get a very good fit with this watch. I wasn't able to get a perfect one with the Citadel, but yeah, pretty much perfect with the Enterprise here. We do have a screw down case back with 200 meters of water resistance. You can see that spec sheet on the case back, solid case back, and I love the quick release clasp here. Makes for easy strap changes, or you can even swap it with another bracelet from Englemaan. Screw down crown as well. There's small crown guards on the side with very nice action. And here it is on the wrist to give you a better look. And here it is outside under natural light. As you can see, quite good AR coating. Here it is on a gray suede strap. And here it is on a khaki NATO strap. I do quite like this look, but I think it is a touch bulky. Here's a look at the Lume, which is excellent. In fact, it tends to activate even after just a few seconds of light exposure. This time I chose the green Lume rather than the blue Lume. As you can see, all the numerals, the Lume plots, and the 12 o'clock marker on the bezel all loomed very well. Okay, let's talk about drawbacks of the watch, and then I'll give you my final verdict. I've already mentioned some of the drawbacks. It's not an original design. If you're still here, perhaps it doesn't bother you too much. And there is that thickness. It's a bit slab-sided, it's a bit thick. I have a 6.5-inch wrist. I feel like I can just about get away with it. If you have a bigger wrist, perhaps it wouldn't bother you as much. If you have a smaller wrist, perhaps it's not for you. It's a bit hefty at 150 odd grams, but at the same time, that gives it a feeling of being solid. The Seiko NH36 is not a particularly accurate movement, but it is a pretty reliable one. But that's kind of it for drawbacks. As for my final verdict, I've had this on the wrist for the past week. I've barely taken it off. So yeah, I do like it. The build quality is great. It has that really tough anti-scratch coating, the anti-magnetism, great lume, it has a very good bezel, and it's just gorgeous in my opinion. Great finishing. So that brings us to a bit of a dilemma here. At $280 US, Englemaan is giving us amazing specs and great quality. Compared to the 104 at over $2,100 US. It has a few cons compared to the Sinn, but it also has a few advantages over it. And some pretty major ones, like its toughness, its scratch resistance. In fact, I think this watch costs less than the price of a Sinn bracelet, the untegimented, unprotected versions. So why would you even need a Sinn? Why would you need an original? Okay, don't get me wrong, I am a fan of the brand. I have a few of their watches which I'm really happy with. So if you want that heritage, if you want that premium quality, certainly treat yourself to a Sinn. But if you're like myself and you do not have an infinite budget, and you just want to add to your collection, I find these hard to resist. I do recommend this brand, and what's even more exciting is what they could get up to in the future when they get beyond homages and get into their own original designs. Okay, so this has been Brian, the Chinese Watch Guy. If you like this video, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and remember, I will have an Englemaan giveaway in the future. See ya.